HOA filled my ranch pathway with cement, so I turned their neighborhood into swamps. Have you ever had a neighbor worse? An entire HOA think they could bulldoze their way into your life and dictate what's yours? That's exactly what happened to me. Lucas Reed, a rancher who'd carved out a quiet life on my sprawling 50-acre property in rural Texas. My land, my rules, my peace until the new HOA from the shiny subdivision next door decided my dirt pathway, winding through my property to the state forest beyond, was their personal shortcut. Without a word, they poured concrete over it, claiming it was for community safety. What followed was a battle of wills, a clash of stubborn egos, and a lesson in nature's unforgiving justice that left their pristine neighborhood a soggy mess. It all started on a crisp spring morning in 2024. I'd been up since dawn, tending to my horses and checking the fences along my property line. My ranch, nestled against a state forest, had been in my family for 3 generations. The dirt path in question wasn't much, just a rugged trail I'd maintained for years, wide enough for my truck and the occasional hiker who respected my land. It cut through my property, connecting the forest trails to a quiet county road. I didn't mind the odd trespasser so long as they didn't tear up the place. But the new Maple Grove Estates, a gated community of cookie-cutter mansions that sprouted up in 2022, changed everything. Their HOA, led by a woman named Karen Whitmore, had a reputation for treating the world like their personal fiefdom. I got the first hint of trouble when a glossy welcome to Maple Grove HOA packet showed up in my mailbox. It was addressed to me, claiming my ranch was part of the community and subject to their rules. I laughed it off. Me property predated their subdivision by decades, and I'd never signed a thing. I called their office expecting a quick correction. Karen herself answered, her voice dripping with condescension. Mr. Reed, your pathway is a public access route to the forest. It's unsightly and unsafe. We're improving it for the neighborhood's benefit. I told her, plain as day, my land wasn't theirs to touch. She hung up, and I figured that was the end of it. 2 weeks later, I came back from town to find my pathway a trail my grandfather walked, my father drove, and I rode covered in fresh cement. A smooth, gray slab stretched a quarter-mile across my property, complete with little signs proclaiming Maple Grove Community Pathway. My blood boiled. They hadn't asked, hadn't warned, hadn't even knocked. I stormed to their HOA office, a sleek building with glass doors and fake plants, and found Karen surrounded by a gaggle of board members. You trespassed and vandalized my property, I said, barely keeping my voice steady. Karen smirked, adjusting her designer glasses. It's for the greater good, Lucas. That path is a community asset now. You'll thank us when property values rise. I didn't want their thanks or their property values. I wanted my land back. I hired a lawyer, my old friend Tom, who specialized in real estate disputes. He dug into the records and confirmed what I knew. My property was outside their jurisdiction, and their community asset claim was nonsense. The path was mine, plain and simple. Tom sent a cease and desist letter, demanding they remove the concrete and restore the land. The HOA's response? A counterclaim, insisting the path was a historical easement, and threatening to sue me for obstructing public access. They even had the gall to send me a bill for the concrete work $12,000. That's when I met Clara, a twist in the tale I didn't see coming. Clara was a retired hydrologist who'd moved into Maple Grove against her better judgment, pressured by her kids to live closer. She'd overheard Karen bragging about the pathway project at a board meeting and smelled trouble. Clara knocked on my door one evening, her silver hair tied back, a stack of topographic maps under her arm. Lucas, she said, I've studied the water flow in this area for decades. That path of yours isn't just a trail, it's a natural drainage channel. They've blocked it with concrete, And come the next big rain, their precious neighborhood is going to flood. Clara's words lit a spark. I'd always known the path followed a low-lying gully, catching runoff from the hills and channeling it safely to a creek in the forest. The HOA's concrete had sealed it shut, forcing water to pool elsewhere. I could have gone to court, spent years and thousands fighting Karen's army of lawyers. Or I could let nature do the talking. I chose the latter, but with a little nudge. The HOA's arrogance grew bolder. They started hosting community walks on my path, parading families and dog walkers like they owned it. Karen even posted on the neighborhood's social media, calling me a grumpy rancher who needed to embrace progress. Meanwhile, Tom uncovered another gem. The HOA hadn't filed for permits to pour the concrete, violating county regulations. We had them dead to rights, but Karen doubled down, claiming clerical errors and rallying her neighbors to petition for the path's preservation. I was outnumbered, outspent, and out of patience. Then came the twist Clara predicted. A tropical storm was forecast for late June 2025. A real soaker. I spent days preparing, not for my raunchy knew my land could handle it, but for the reckoning. Clara and I mapped out the water's likely path now that the gully was blocked. The runoff, she calculated, would pool in Maple Grove's lowest streets, right where Karen and her cronies lived. I didn't stop there. With Tom's blessing, I dug a shallow trench along my property line, just deep enough to guide the water toward their manicured lawns. It wasn't sabotage, it was redirecting what they'd already disrupted. Nature would handle the rest. The storm hit on June 15, 2025, dumping 8 inches of rain in 48 hours. My ranch, high and well-drained, was fine. Maple Grove? A disaster. Water poured off the hills, hit the concrete slab, and had nowhere to go but sideways. My trench funneled it straight into their neighborhood. By morning, their streets were ankle-deep, basements were flooding, and Karen's prized rose garden was a muddy swamp. Social media exploded with photos of submerged mailboxes and kids kayaking in driveways. The HOA's emergency meeting was a circus resident screaming at Karen, who blamed unforeseen weather patterns. Clara, bless her, stood up and explained the drainage issue, pointing out the HOA's unpermitted concrete as the culprit. The room went silent. Karen's empire crumbled fast. The county fined the HOA $20,000 for the illegal construction, and residents demanded her resignation. Lawsuits flew, homeowners against the HOA against the contractor who poured the concrete without permits. I didn't have to lift a finger. The truth and the water did it for me. By August, the concrete was jackhammered out, my path restored to dirt and gravel at their expense. Karen moved away. Her house sold at a loss after flood damage tanked its value. Clara became a local hero, elected to the HOA board to clean up the mess. In the end, my ranch stood untouched, my horses grazing under wide Texas skies. The HOA learned a hard lesson. You don't mess with a man's land, especially when nature's on his side. I'm no saint. I took satisfaction watching their hubris wash away. But I also learned something. One voice, like Clara's, can shift the tide. She showed me that even in a fight, there's room for unlikely allies. So what do you think? Was I wrong to let the water teach them a lesson? Or was the HOA's arrogance begging for a reckoning? Share your thoughts. I am curious where you stand.